There are moments in American history when the legal system turns its eyes not toward criminals, but toward the people who once stood guard over it. And in the fall of 2025, that spotlight landed on a familiar name, James Comey. For some Americans, he's the former FBI director who tried to keep a fragile nation steady through turbulent political storms. For others, he's the man whose decisions reshaped elections, investigations, and public trust. But in 2025, he became something else entirely, a defendant. The story begins years earlier, back in 2020, when Comey appeared before Congress to answer questions about the FBI's handling of confidential human sources. At the time, his words seemed routine, another hearing in a long series of political dramas. But years later, federal prosecutors would point to that same testimony and accuse him of something serious, lying to Congress and obstructing a congressional investigation. It was a stunning moment. A former FBI director charged with crimes that, if proven, would strike at the very heart of the institution he once led. Yet something was off, and judges noticed. As the case moved forward in 2025, the courtroom became less about Comey's past decisions and more about the people bringing the case against him. A single question began to dominate the hearings. Was this prosecution built on law or on procedural failure? During the pretrial process, concerns grew. The special prosecutor appointed to oversee the case had been placed in the role through a method that judges questioned. Grand jury materials revealed irregular steps. Documents were processed in ways that raised eyebrows even among seasoned attorneys. And then came the turning point. In late November 2025, a federal judge issued a sweeping decision. The charges against James Comey would be dismissed, not because he was proven innocent, and not because the evidence was weak, but because the prosecution itself was built on procedural mistakes so deep that the case could not proceed. The judge went further, calling the missteps profound and warning that the integrity of the justice system requires more than good intentions. It requires doing things the right way. But one detail made the ruling even more dramatic. The case was dismissed without prejudice, meaning the government could try again. This story is not over. So what happens now? Political pressure will intensify. Supporters of the case will argue that Comey must still face a lawful prosecution. Opponents will say the case should never have been brought in the first place. And in the middle stands the Justice Department, now forced to decide whether to rebuild the entire case from the ground up or close the book on one of the most polarizing legal chapters in recent memory. For Comey, the moment is complicated. He avoided a criminal trial, but not because his name was cleared. Instead, he walked out of court because the system around him failed to follow its own rules. For the American public, the questions remain larger than the man himself. If a former FBI director can be charged and then released due to procedural errors, what does that say about the system meant to protect justice? And if the case returns in a new form, what message will it send to future leaders, future prosecutors, and future investigations? We are watching a legal earthquake in slow motion, one that will shake courts, politics, and institutions long after the headlines fade. And until the Justice Department makes its next move, the James Comey case sits in a rare space, a story unfinished.